Welcome back, investors, to Ticker Time News. I'm Adam. We've got some breaking news in the Workhorse v. United States USPS court case. There were two motions filed that we need to get into, but real quick, I just want to show you on the charts, Workhorse has fallen into a consolidation pattern, which isn't a bad sign. But into the news that you came here to see. There were two motions filed in court today. In the Workhorse v. United States USPS protest challenging the award of the next generation delivery vehicles, the USPS and Oshkosh Defense both filed sealed motions to dismiss the case today. Now, the USPS did not state a rule for dismissal, but rather left that to Oshkosh Defense, who filed the sealed motion to dismiss the case pursuant to Rule 12b(1) and 6 with the court. Now, Oshkosh Defense claims the dismissal on grounds of lack of jurisdiction and failure to state a claim. Now, in the 59-page complaint filed by Workhorse, the mention of the court's jurisdiction were on pages 5, section 13, and page 56, section 167. Now, if we go to page 5 and look at section 13, it talks specifically right here about jurisdiction. You can see that right here. Now, it says for 13, this is a bid protest by an interested party objecting to the award of a contract in connection with the procurement 28 USC 149b1. Additionally, this court has jurisdiction to consider this action because it is, quote, a claim that the government breached an implied in fact contract to fairly and honestly consider an offerer's proposal in the procurement context under section 149(1)(b)(1). Now, they have precedent here. They state two other court cases where this has been applied and was found to have jurisdiction. Safeguard Base Operations LLC versus the United States and Emery Worldwide Airlines Incorporated versus the United States. That's the first place that Workhorse does bring up jurisdiction. Now, the second time they do that is on page, let me look at my notes again, page 56, 167 states. The USPS breached an implied contract with Workhorse to consider fairly and honestly Workhorse's proposal. They go on to say the statutory context and the legislative history demonstrate that Congress intended the claims court to have jurisdiction over implied in fact contract claims in the procurement bid protest context under, and then has the rule 28 USC 149(1)(b)(1). So those are the two places where Workhorse references jurisdiction in the court filing. Now, it goes on here as far as failure to state a claim. Workhorse laid out the summary of its complaint on pages 1 through 5 and then went into greater detail on the remaining pages. I've highlighted some of the major or important points that I believe are relevant to this failure to state a claim. A few highlights that I think gives a little context to what's happening. So in the first section, nature of the action, number 1, it just lays out protest challenging the award, what award, and 2, who, with the United States Postal Service for the next generation delivery vehicle that was awarded to Oshkosh Defense, USPS's actions with respect to this procurement were arbitrary and without rational basis. USPS unreasonable actions directly harm plaintiff, which would be Workhorse. USPS conducted the procurement in accordance with applicable law, the solicitation requirements, and fundamental fairness. If the USPS did this, then Workhorse would have been awarded the contract hands down. This is what Workhorse is claiming. And number 4, Workhorse, together with its former partner. Now, who could this redaction of the former partner be? Later on in this court document filed by Workhorse, they do list VT Hackney as a former partner. So that's why I believe this redacted name is VT Hackney. But Workhorse, together with its former partner, spent 6 years and over $6 million designing, prototyping, and refining a proposed next-generation delivery vehicle. USPS never had any intention of fairly considering Workhorse for the award. The USPS put its thumb on the scale against Workhorse, falsely blamed Workhorse's prototype in a safety incident where Workhorse claims it was the UPS driver's error. Now, there were 2 safety incidents that happened that are listed in the details of this. It goes on to say here in section 7, completing the initial design is only 1 year and building 6 prototypes in a mere 18 weeks. So they built 6 prototypes in 18 weeks. Pretty quick. Section 8, it says on February 23rd, 2021, the USPS announced that it had selected Oshkosh for the $3.1 billion contract to produce up to 165,000 next-generation delivery vehicles. Now, one thing that stood out here to me, the contract is for $3.1 billion. A lot had been said about a possible $6 billion or more contract. Now, further in the details of this court document, Workhorse lays out that the United States Postal Service never had the funding to begin with to go with an all-electric company like Workhorse. So it's very interesting that they say Oshkosh Defense in their motion to dismiss says failure to state a claim. Well, they're stating a pretty good claims here to me. What do you think? Are these claims going to be good enough? All right, it goes on to say that surprising not just to Workhorse, but to members of Congress, the media, and other observers, us retail investors, who have closely followed the USPS Next Generation Delivery Vehicle Program. First, the selected Oshkosh vehicle uses an internal combustion engine with 10% potentially being electric. Now, it also says this stands in stark contrast to the entire last mile delivery vehicle industry, citing USPS, FedEx, Amazon, and DHL, which are aggressively moving towards all-electric, zero-emission fleets. It also says that the USPS attempts to defend this decision on cost grounds was startling. In this document, Workhorse claims the USPS knew from the beginning they could not hire or contract out a company that produced all-electric vehicles because they did not have the funding to begin with. So then the USPS comes out and says, well, we're going to go with Oshkosh and the internal combustion engines because it's more cost effective. Well, I believe, I'm not a lawyer, but I believe Workhorse lays out a very good defense that it is well established that electric vehicles have a significantly lower total cost of ownership than gas-burning vehicles, as the USPS's for-profit competitors recognize the vast savings on fuel and maintenance dramatically outweigh the additional cost of charging infrastructure. They go on to say, second, it quickly became apparent that the Oshkosh vehicle and the USPS had selected for production was entirely different than the vehicle Oshkosh had put forward in the prototype phase. This definitely, to me, seems like there should be an investigation. I don't know if they can go straight ahead and skip the investigation part to seek damages with their complaint here, but there definitely should be an investigation done, because if this is true, then the USPS did breach their contract with Workhorse. What they're saying is the final vehicle was a completely different vehicle than what went through the USPS's testing for the next generation delivery vehicles. And later on in the details of this document, Workhorse claims that Oshkosh went out and grabbed a Ford Transit off a dealership lot, slapped on a custom body, and then said, "Here's our prototype." I don't know what you're thinking, but to me, that's wrong. But anyways, we'll keep reading this. Only a few more left. Page 4, it continues. Completely unlike the Ford Transit-based prototypes that were put through the USPS testing. I just mentioned that. I should have went ahead reading and then added commentary. So they go on to say that the USPS had selected a vehicle from Oshkosh that skipped the prototype phase altogether. This is especially puzzling given that Oshkosh has never previously produced a last mile delivery vehicle, much less an electric one. In section 10, they say USPS would pay Oshkosh $482 million simply to finish the development of its concept before a single truck is delivered. So Workhorse already mentioned that they partnered up with someone that was redacted. They spent 6 years and millions of dollars to create 6 prototypes. And here they're saying that Oshkosh Defense never did create a prototype. They went and got a Ford Transit vehicle and put a custom body on top of it and called that their prototype. And then the USPS is going to pay Oshkosh $482 million to basically build their prototype. By contrast, Workhorse vehicle needs only approximately redacted to incorporate the proposed improvements to its prototype out of a total of redacted for design, testing, and assembly. The USPS inexplicably opted to pay Oshkosh blank that amount to accomplish the same thing. So Workhorse, I believe what's being redacted here are numbers. All right, number 11 here, it says that the unfair treatment of Workhorse by USPS, rollaway incident, this is one of the 2 incidents that happened, are among the top reasons that it would never have selected Workhorse's next generation delivery vehicle for its flagship vehicle. The USPS misleadingly claims that a flaw in Workhorse's parking brake system caused Workhorse's prototype vehicle to roll down a hill, injuring a test track driver. This account is false. In reality, the USPS test track driver, presumably intending to stop the vehicle, incorrectly left it in drive rather than park. The driver then left the vehicle's driver's seat and walked into the cargo area. Unsurprisingly, as the vehicle was in drive, the vehicle began rolling. Instead of properly applying the brake or placing the vehicle in park, the driver jumped out of the vehicle. The USPS not only disingenuously directed the blame at Workhorse, but has seized upon this incident as a, quote, poster child reason it could not have awarded the contract to Workhorse. Last page, page 5, section 12. Workhorse respectfully seeks an order for this court invalidating the agency's award to Oshkosh and instructing the USPS to award the next generation delivery vehicle contract to Workhorse as the officer whose proposal provided the best value or in the alternative, instructing the USPS to make a new award decision based on a rational best value analysis in accordance with the terms of the solicitation. And then we get to the jurisdiction, which we already talked about. Ultimately, on the dismissal, failure to state a claim will be up to Judge Zachary N. Summers to determine whether or not the complaint filed by Workhorse that we just went through the summary. And again, this was just a summary. Everything that I just mentioned on all 5 pages, Workhorse goes into great detail, is good enough to hold any merit. In my opinion, Workhorse did a good job of laying out a case against the USPS, but in the end, I'm not a lawyer, and the decision will be left to Judge Zachary N. Summers. Judge Zachary N. Summers does have until August the 3rd, 2021 to respond to the motions to dismiss the case. So now I throw it over to you. What do you think are the chances that Workhorse has to overturn the USPS decision to award the entire contract to Oshkosh Defense? And if you found this video valuable, the best thing that you can do is like this video, share this video, and click subscribe to join our family of investors. We don't have the big marketing budgets like the mainstream finance media, so your help is greatly appreciated. And as always, if you have watched till the end, you, my friend, are totally awesome. Thank you so very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.